Hello everybody! Yes, this is your Singapore Grand Prix preview show. Can Mighty Max do it again and make it a hat-trick of wins, 3 out of 3, and a hat-trick of pole positions? Are Ferrari even going to turn up to the Grand Prix? What is happening with George Russell's contract? And who will be the dipstick of the day? Predictions welcome in the chat. And who will be the predicted driver of the day? We're going to be talking about all of it in this preview show. Welcome to F1 Grandstand. I'm Tony Craig, and if you're an F1 fan, of course you're in the right place. Please smash a like on the video, hit the bell button. It makes a huge difference to the success of the channel, and I'm very, very grateful. So first up, let's have a look at where we're going. So this weekend, Marina Bay, Singapore. What do we know and what do we love about this track? Well, let me fill you in a little bit. Let me give you some good knowledge. So this circuit first held a Grand Prix in 2008, 62 laps, 4.94 kilometers in length. I'm going to tell you who holds the current lap record. It's from 2024, and you might be surprised to find out that the current lap record holder is Daniel Ricciardo. Yeah, Daniel Ricciardo, DR, the man himself, holds the current lap record from 2024. Now, I thought it might be fun, actually. I'll ask you a quick question whilst you're in the chat. Who do you think has won more times than anybody in Singapore? Answers in the chat. I will be telling you a little bit later. So we love this circuit in a lot of ways. It's a nighttime race, which we love, right? It's a street circuit, which I personally love. There's 4 DRS zones, so there are possibilities to overtake. And you might be surprised to find out last year's winner, and so in 2023 and 2024, it's the same winner. And it was our driver of the day from Baku, Carlos Sainz. He won in 23 in the Ferrari, and he won in 24 in the Ferrari. Yeah, it's a great circuit. It's the other thing you should know is it's extremely humid and hot, so it's absolutely punishing for the drivers. It really is a very punishing circuit, and the fact that they've got a sprint race there as well this weekend is that it is honestly going to be quite grueling for the drivers, and that might have an impact on the result. I'm going to go to the chat. Hey Gemma. Yeah, Tony serving tea Singapore style, that's right. Kyle, hey Kyle. Oh, he's putting his predictions in. I love this. Kyle's early with the predictions. I've been asking for your dipstick of the day prediction, driver of the day prediction, and of course you can always give me your 1, 2, 3 as well. Kyle says he's going for winner Leclerc, Max second, Norris third, dipstick will be Stroll, and driver of the day Hadjar. Pretty good predictions there. I'm not in agreement, but I will be coming to mine a little bit later in the show. Honourable mention Roscoe, of course. Yeah, of course. I mean, it'll be good that Hamilton even turns up. It's a very sad thing losing your dog after 10 years. It's very difficult. I hope he's able to get his head in gear for the race and maybe try and win one for him. You know, give you something to drive for. So Gemma is going with winner Max, dipstick Oliver Behrman. What about your driver of the day? Or are you saying Max's driver of the day? We'll be coming to these a little bit later. But first, what I want to do is I do want to talk about one of Gemma's mentions there. It's I want to talk about Mighty Max. So what do you need to know about Mighty Max? Well, for a start, Max Verstappen has never won in Singapore. Not once. So does that mean it's going to be a problem for him? Well, here's what I think about Mighty Max in Singapore. I think the Red Bull car has been improved remarkably. I think that new floor upgrade that got rolled out in Monza and the the brake ducting that they've improved has done wonders for that car through slow speed corners and medium speed corners, and the whole balance of the car looks very impressive. Straight line speed has never really been a problem, but being able to keep that speed through the corners has. Find the balance of the car, that's been tricky. So here's what I think. Max's result is going to be very, very telling for the rest of the season. I think if Red Bull bring a competitive package to Singapore, and I don't have any reason to think they won't after the last two outings of that car, I think it's game on for the World Driver Championship. And I also think you could see Red Bull Racing even getting, I mean, Red Bull Racing are only 18 points behind Mercedes. So the current team standings are, obviously McLaren are miles out in front by about 333 points. Second place in the Constructors is Mercedes on 290 points. Third place in the Constructors now, Ferrari have dropped down to third on 286 points, 4 points behind Mercedes. And Red Bull Racing are fourth on 272 points. They're only 18 points behind Mercedes. So I definitely think with that improvement in the car, we could, and also Yuki's improvement as well, getting the car in the points. I think for the Constructors standings, it's game on for Red Bull to go from fourth to second, and for Mercedes third and Ferrari to drop down to fourth, which would be bad news for Ferrari, obviously, but good news for Red Bull. But from the World Drivers Championship, yeah, Max Verstappen wins in Singapore and that car's competitive. I think it is game on for the rest of the season. Now, do I think he can do it? That's the question. Do I think that those upgrades on that Red Bull car, and it's not just a new floor and brake ducting, I believe it's the ride height. They're able to run that car lower, and that's given them some improved performance. And the car has been legal when it's gone through scrutineering. So factoring all that in, do I think Red Bull are going to bring a very competitive package to Singapore? Yes. Do I think Max can make it a hat trick? I have to say yes. I have to say yes. I do. I really do think Max, that car has more balance. I can see Kyle disagrees with me. Kyle says different type of track from the last two wins. It is not as low downforce. Max has several P2s at Singapore. He has never won though. And if he does win, McLaren should be nervous. I agree with that statement, Kyle, 100%, because it really is game on at that point. And I'm going to talk about the McLaren team and drivers in just a minute on where I think they are going to fit in to this Singapore Grand Prix. But spoiler alert, I do believe that if I had to put money on a winner, I think Red Bull are onto something. And I think, and again, credit to Christian Horner for authorizing, commissioning, instructing that floor upgrade all the way back when he was team principal. It was obviously a great upgrade, and he should get credit for it. But that car is performing much better. And I think Max doesn't need the best car on the grid. He just needs the car close enough. Just needs it close enough because his talent will do the rest. So that's what I think. That's what I think. I think Max Verstappen's going to take it. But that does bring us on to the McLaren boys. We need to talk about this because they had a disaster in Baku. Piastri, wow, put it in the wall twice. Qualifying, put it in the wall. Only qualified P9. And then that awful start where he he jumped the start, anti-stall kicked in, every car on the grid passed him. He's obviously in some sort of panic or rage in that car. And then turn 3, overcooks it and puts the car in the wall and doesn't finish. And he's the only car not to finish in Baku. So what do I think his reaction is to that coming into Singapore? I do believe that Oscar Piastri, before Baku, which was a terrible weekend for him, he finished 44 Grand Prix. He brought the car home. Super consistent, Mr. Cool, Calm, Collected. Do I think we're going to go back to that? I do. I do. I think Oscar Piastri will get his head together after that terrible outing in Baku, and I think he's going to bring it. I think he's going to bring some pace. I think he's going to bring some consistency. And I also think he's going to err on the side of caution. He is not going to want to get another DNF. He currently sits first in the driver's standings. He has got a 25-point gap between him and Lando Norris and a 69-point gap between him and Max Verstappen, who's in third. So do I think we're going to see a different Oscar Piastri, a cooler, calmer, more collected drive from him in Singapore? Yeah. Basically, I'll just give the answer. Yeah, I do. I really do. I think if anyone in the McLaren team is going to take risks, or who should take risks, it's of course Lando Norris, because he's chasing. He's 25 points behind. And if he wants to stay in contention, well, he can't do what he did in Baku, where he literally missed an open goal. I mean, it was horrendous, really. Oscar Piastri bins it in qualifying, P9, and Lando Norris couldn't capitalise on that and put that car higher than P6. That's no good. And then in the race, when Oscar Piastri bins it in the wall on lap 1, Lando Norris couldn't finish higher than P6? It is, or P7. It's just not good enough. Not good enough. You know, couldn't get past Yuki, stuck in the DRS train, and that McLaren should have done better. Lando Norris should have scored a bucket load of points against his teammate. But instead, he picked up 6 points, which is just not good enough. So Lando Norris has got to come back and show some grit. And if anybody needs to show and risk anything, Lando Norris, we need to see more from him. We do. We need to see him put a shift in, not only in qualifying, but in the race. He's got to pass people. He has got to put the moves on people. Now, on that, it brings me on to... I'm going to come to my predictions afterwards. But that's the thing about McLaren. There's still no team orders. Basically, the only team orders are don't crash into each other. There are, obviously... They don't allow undercuts, obviously. We saw that with Lando Norris, where his pit crew did a 4-second pit stop, ended up coming out behind Oscar Piastri. Oscar Piastri had to yield and give him the place. All of that was because there was going to be no undercuts, and because there was a team order, okay, fine. And the pit crew member, it was his fault. And then Lando Norris at Baku, next Grand Prix, has the same problem on the front right instead of the front left. Another tyre gun problem, which cost him another 4.2 second pit stop, which meant he couldn't come out in front of Yuki Tsunoda and Liam Lawson, where he could have come out in front of them and been fighting Kimi Antonelli. So those mistakes at McLaren have got to stop, and they have got to stop in Singapore. It's an absolute shit show, really, over there. So that Grand Prix in Baku was just a shit show. Do I expect them to do that this weekend? No. But if they do, well, then it's like a cancer creeping into that team. They're never going to lose a Constructors' title, obviously. But could it affect the Drivers' Championships? Hell yeah. Especially when you got Max Verstappen bringing such a solid, well, what seems to be a much more solid Red Bull car and a much more solid drive from him. So yeah, McLaren need to sort it out. Which brings me on to another team that needs to sort it out. Now, Kyle mentioned it, and I'm going to mention it again. So, Lewis Hamilton is going to be driving for Ferrari this weekend over in Singapore. Suffered a tragic loss this week, losing his best friend and dog companion, Roscoe. Unfortunately, has to be put to sleep due to illness. So he's carrying a huge amount of grief into this weekend. Hopefully, they'll probably give him a reprieve from doing any press commitments and things like that. But is he going to drive? Yeah, he's going to drive. Is it going to affect his drive? it's hard to say how that can affect the driver. Grief is such a powerful emotion. It could just make him sit in the car and go, what is the point? Why am I even still here? I'm 40 years old. I'm driving a bag of spanners car. What am I even doing here? It could have that effect. Or it could have the opposite effect where it brings out just the best in him because he's got this huge emotion pushing him through the race, and he wants to do it. He maybe wants to win one for Roscoe or have a good result for Roscoe. So that grief might affect Hamilton's performance. And yeah, Kyle says he can get a Roscoe sticker for his helmet. Yeah, I'm sure he'll have some nice touch. So what do I think that could do for Hamilton? I think I'm unsure is the truth. Are we going to see like a vintage Hamilton just wringing the neck of that Ferrari and getting the maximum performance? Because we have to remember, Hamilton and Leclerc, until Q3 or Q2, or until qualifying actually, the Ferrari looked actually pretty darn good in Baku. Hamilton put in the fastest time in FP2. Him and Leclerc were neck and neck. Hamilton actually was pipping Leclerc by a tenth. And those drivers look very evenly matched. Now, I was actually thinking this is good news for Hamilton. He's really on track to, be very, very close to Leclerc, or even do a faster lap time than Leclerc. Unfortunately, because of the 6 red flags in qualifying, bad timing for Hamilton. It meant in Q2, when they got back underway, he was on the wrong tyre, the slower tyre, the hard tyre, and he couldn't put in a quick enough lap to get into Q3. Whereas Leclerc did get into Q3, and then he put it in the wall and qualified P9, and Hamilton qualified, I think it was P11. So it was a bad weekend in that respect, but the cars looked closer together. So that gave me some confidence that Hamilton was finding an improved performance in the way he drove that Ferrari because he was closing the gap to Leclerc. So I think it's very hard to predict what the impact of what he's been through this week is going to have on his drive in Singapore. But what I'm hoping for Hamilton is that he is able to channel all of that emotion, all of that grief into something positive in his performance. Might even give him an edge. And after, so that's covered Hamilton. And again, R.I.P. Roscoe. We know you watch the show, Lewis. All of our thoughts are with you, and I know how hard it is. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about Leclerc, because Leclerc, this is the other problem Ferrari have got this week. So we've talked about Ferrari's performance in Baku, but we need to talk about the news stories that are coming out about Leclerc's management team talking to other F1 teams about changing drives, changing teams. I mean, this is crazy. What a time for it to come out. And there hasn't really been any denial of it either. So Ferrari have got all sorts of problems coming into this Singapore Grand Prix, because Leclerc is Mr. Ferrari, their absolute golden boy. Ferrari wanted Leclerc to be, he signed a contract till the end of 2029. There are some exit clauses that will allow him to leave if certain things get triggered in the contract. But overall, you got to look at him as the long-term future for Ferrari till 2029. They believed Leclerc was going to be their golden boy who was going to bring them home multiple world championships. And Leclerc himself always came across like, I am Ferrari through and through. I want to be here. I don't want to be anywhere else. And I want to win with Ferrari. But there are now cracks in that story. We've seen it reported in the press a lot this week. Leclerc's management have been talking to other top teams. Aston Martin, McLaren, Mercedes. Weird choices, but those conversations have been taking place. And management are putting the feelers out for a move for Leclerc. Now, it's not about putting feelers out. It's the fact that because drivers' management will do this. If a driver gets unsettled in a team and they're not winning, of course their management are going to make tentative inquiries. But the Ferrari PR machine have not prevented this coming out into the as public knowledge. And the Ferrari PR machine is all about PR Ferrari, right? United Front, the best team. They're just a PR. They're just like a fortress. And then you've got their number one guy, their golden boy, and all this news is coming out. And it is very damaging for the Ferrari brand and for the Ferrari team. And we've also had Gunther Steiner this week saying in the press that the Ferrari team is already fractured because of the recruitment of Lewis Hamilton. A lot of the engineers disagree with it and they thought it was a bad choice. Yet management aren't saying that because obviously that would reflect badly on them. But Gunther Steiner, ex-Haas team principal, has got a very good relationship with Ferrari. Obviously, they've supplied them with engines. And he said, yes, absolutely, within the Ferrari camp, there's fractions. It's broken in half. A lot of people are very unhappy with Lewis Hamilton being part of that team. They think it's a waste of money and the wrong guy. And they actually think they should have kept Carlos Sainz because he was a perfect teammate and running mate for Charles Leclerc. They got on very, very well. We saw them take a ride home together, didn't you? Literally last weekend. Leclerc and Sainz, very close friends, very, very good teammates. And as we're talking about Singapore Grand Prix, it was Carlos Sainz that's won there for the last 2 years in 23 and 24 for Ferrari. So how's this going to affect Ferrari in Singapore? Badly, I think. Leclerc might not be on his A game. I actually think this could be a weekend where we see Hamilton do better than Leclerc. If Hamilton has managed to channel all of his energy and all of his emotion the right way, we could see a weekend where Hamilton beats Leclerc. I don't see Ferrari challenging for P1, put it that way. I just don't. I don't think it's going to be that. So I think Ferrari are going to have some troubles this weekend. By the way, I'm still going to come to my predictions. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to come back to your predictions in the chat. If you just joined us, I'm asking for predictions on who you think is going to be your potential driver of the day and who is going to be your potential dipstick of the day, and also your 1, 2, 3 at Singapore. I'm going to be coming to mine in just a moment, but I need to lead on to what do we think about Mercedes coming into Singapore? I mean, Toto Wolff still leaving George Russell out to dry. Still no contract. George Russell cannot pretend to be ill again to avoid all the press. Surely there's got to be an announcement about George's contract being signed for next year. Surely. And Kimi Antonelli, we know what's going to go on with him. He's going to get a 1-year deal. He's going to like it or lump it. But here's the thing. Now, I don't know if you know this, but George Russell is not only a Mercedes driver, but because he came through the Mercedes driver program, his manager is Toto Wolff, the same as Kimi Antonelli. Now, I'll be honest, I thought he'd left Toto Wolff because the way the driver program works at Mercedes, if you come through the ranks at Mercedes, all the money, time and investment that goes into you as a driver, the deal is that Toto Wolff gets the management contract for 5 years. That's the deal. Kimi Antonelli's under that deal. George Russell was under that deal, but I thought that deal had ended. It turns out, it's come out in the press. So I've been to school as well. Listen to this in F1 Oversteer. George Russell. Let me just pull up. Okay, so George Russell, the 27-year-old, is considering a change behind the scenes that might ease current talks, but would potentially make working with Wolff at Mercedes more awkward in the long run, because he is considering changing his management, which is Toto Wolff, because he's It's so crazy, this contract situation. So basically, Toto Wolff is negotiating with himself about George Russell's contract. That's just such a crazy situation. So George Russell's there going, hey, I'd like to speak to my manager, please. Listen, manager, I've got a problem with this contract that Mercedes are offering me. And then Toto has to go, okay, let me speak to him. And he's talking to himself. It's just it's nonsense. But that's what's going on at Mercedes. By all accounts, Toto Wolff isn't really budging much. He might give him a few more shekels. But George Russell has asked for a Kimi Antonelli clause in his 1 year. Mercedes want to give him a 1 year deal with a +1, which means Mercedes reserved the right to extend his contract by 1 year. What George Russell is saying is, okay, if I take this 1 year deal with a +1, I want clauses that if I hit in my contract, then I automatically get the extra 1 year extension. Toto Wolff is pushing back on that at the moment. And he's also, I think he might yield on some of the sponsor days, but that's what's going on with the George Russell Toto Wolff situation on the contract. But what's that going to do in Singapore? Well, we saw George Russell finish a brilliant second in Baku when he started, what was it, fifth or sixth? Fifth. And that car really wasn't good enough. So to get a podium in Baku was an excellent result. And if he is to be believed that he had some form of flu and he was under the weather, well then, you know, even better that result, right? It's a good result. So what do I think? How do I think he's going to perform in Singapore? Well, I think he's going to do pretty well, actually. I do. I think he's going to do pretty well. I think he wants to do. I think he wants to put a shift in Singapore just to really stick it to Toto Wolff and go, look at how good I am. I got second in Baku, and I think he's on for a podium. So that sort of catches you up with the main news that's going on between the teams. And now I'm going to move it in to predictions. And like I said, I've got driver of the day prediction, dipstick of the day prediction, and my 1, 2, 3. I'm going to start, excuse me, with my 1, 2, 3. So I think your first place winner is going to be Max Verstappen. I know, I'm putting it out there. I think Max Verstappen is going to be P1 in the race in Singapore. He's never won there before. But I think the improvement in the Red Bull, and I think he's on a charge, and I think he's going to do it. He's going to want to get a win at Singapore because he's never done it. So I'm going Max Verstappen. I'm going for P1. My P2, I'm going with my man Piastri. He's my P2. My P3 might just, well, it might not shock you actually, because I could have already given it away. So Oscar Piastri P2. And I'm going with George Russell P3. And then I think it'd be Lando Norris P4. And then this is what I think. I think we might see Lewis Hamilton P5, which would be a good result for him. I think we might see Lewis Hamilton P5 and Charles Leclerc P6. But none of those are my driver of the day prediction. This is where it gets interesting. So I'm going a bit left field. My driver of the day prediction for this weekend is Alexander Albon. Hear me out. Terrible in Baku. Clipped the apex of a corner, put the car in the wall. Carlos Sainz, driving well, P2. Finishing on the podium. Brilliant result for him. Alexander Albon's been brilliant this season. He scored 70 points compared to Carlos Sainz 34 points. And I think Alexander Albon, after a bad race result in Baku, I think we're going to get a driver of the day performance. I think he's going to be quicker than Hadjar. I think he's going to be quicker than Lawson. And I think he could be 5, 6. But yeah, Alexander Albon is my driver of the day prediction. Now, I was close because I did think Lawson could have been in for a shout as well. Now I'm going to have a look at your driver of the day prediction. So Gemma, just to remind me, you said, who was your driver? You said Max, didn't you, Gemma, for your driver of the day prediction? Yeah, fair enough. I mean, if he wins, if he gets pole and he wins, is he driver of the day? Well, he's yeah, probably. I think he's going to win. I just think Alexander Albon. I don't like to give the winner driver of the day, especially when it's Max Verstappen, even if he has been brilliant. I like to go for a driver who sort of performs better than the car would suggest it should perform. So I'll go with that. Okay, so Alexander Albon. I'll take your driver of the day prediction as Max Verstappen. Now, who was Kyle's again? Kyle's driver of the day prediction was... I've got to go all the way back up the chat. Hadjar. Okay, good, decent shout. Hadjar didn't have a great race, did he? In Baku, finishing down in, where was he? 10th, when Liam Lawson managed to put it P5, his teammate Racing Bulls. So Hadjar, okay, you think he's going to have a resurgence in form? It's a good shout. It's a good shout. He's not made too many mistakes this season. He's definitely been rookie of the season. I think it's a fair shout to say Hadjar. Let me know in the chat what position you think he's going to finish. And here's the big one for me. My dipstick of the day prediction. I think it's going to be Franco Colapinto. I've got to go with it. Like, now he's under a lot of pressure. He's racing to try and keep his seat in Alpine in 2026. I don't know. I mean, Flavio Briatore seems to have a soft spot for him. I think it's the money he brings in. But here's my prediction with Franco Colapinto. I think he's going to put it in the wall. I think it's a DNF. Franco Colapinto. I think he's going to put it in the wall. He hasn't. He's due a DNF for me. But even worse, I think he's going to take someone with him. So Franco Colapinto is my dipstick of the day prediction. Just having a quick check at Kyle's. Kyle's going with Lance Stroll as his dipstick of the day. And Gemma's got an interesting one because Gemma's going with Ollie Behrman as her dipstick of the day prediction. Now that's interesting because Ollie Behrman has been a pretty decent rookie. The big problem with Ollie Behrman is he has made some silly mistakes where he's been racking up those penalty points on his super license. He's got 10 penalty points, one silly error, not responding to a yellow flag, silly error in the pit lane, silly error under caution of any description. Well, then he's going to get 12 penalty points on his super license, and that'll be it for him. He'll be out. He'll miss a Grand Prix. So I guess what Gemma's saying is this is going to be the Grand Prix that Ollie Behrman makes that mistake. So she's going for Ollie Behrman as her dipstick of the day. Oh, I love this. Kyle's been very specific about why he believes Hadjar is going to be driver of the day. He thinks he's going to have a terrible qualifying. He's going to qualify 15th. But he's going to finish P7 with most overtakes. Hadjar doesn't have enough HP to qualify well, but can overtake on skill. So you don't think he's got the horsepower? That Racing Bulls, I think it's all... I actually think it's... I don't think it's bad on horsepower. But I love the specificity. Is that a word? I love the specifics of your prediction. I can't wait to see if that comes true. Qualifies 15th, finishes 7th. That's awesome. But Hadjar is such a talent, isn't he? Helmut Marko loves him over at Red Bull. I think Lauren McKees does like him a lot, although Lauren McKees is saying that it's not nailed on that Hadjar gets that Red Bull seat. But Helmut Marko basically saying he's getting that seat in 2026. But he is a superb talent. Great attitude, super aggressive, very, very quick. So yeah, it's a good choice. It's a good choice for driver of the day, to be fair. It is. And Gemma's, I like Gemma's left field dipstick of the day, Oliver Behrman. But mine is going to be Franco Colapinto. I do think he's going to put it in the wall. It's a street circuit. The walls are unforgiving. He's driving at night. Who knows? The Alpine's not great. So yeah, I'm going with Franco Colapinto as my dipstick of the day. So those are the predictions for the Singapore Grand Prix. Just a reminder, I will be doing live streaming for practice, FP1, the sprint race, qualifying. I'll be late for the Grand Prix, believe it or not, because I'm actually cannot get out of this other job that I'm doing. I will be streaming, but I'll probably be starting my stream halfway through. I'll be watching it on my phone. It's all very crazy, but I will try and get on the stream for the actual race. But I'll definitely be available streaming live for qualifying. I'll definitely be streaming live for the sprint and also free practice. So we will be streaming live, but bear with me on the actual race. So yeah, that's all to come. Obviously, if there's any breaking news tomorrow, we will be coming. We'll put a video out, or it'll be live, and we'll have more live F1 Grandstand tomorrow night. It's 7:30 UK time, and I'm going to see you all then. So do hit the bell, smash a like on the video. It makes a big difference to the channel. If you're watching on replay, do get involved in the chat, just like the guys have done whilst we were live, and I will get back to you. Okay, thank you so much for watching. I will be back tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Ta-ta.